Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the founder of Metawrkx, someone who's a leading growth strategy advisor, a keynote speaker, a podcast host focused on the convergence of emerging technologies, AI, Web3, and the metaverse with core business strategy. With over 25 years of leadership experience at global brands like Nike, Sony, and Walmart, our guest has spearheaded transformational initiatives, whether it's turnarounds or market expansion to digital transformation. He led Sony India's flagship business through 2 successful turnarounds and drove product developments across APAC. He is also someone who translates complex tech into strategic, actionable insights through executive keynotes, advisory, and content platforms. Please join me in welcoming the speaker of the day, Akash Agarwal, onto the podium, please. Akash is going to speak on digital, data, AI, and demand, how technology is redefining Indian real estate growth. It's over to you, Akash.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I think the introductions overpromise a bit, so I would like to tone it down. So anyway, let's get started here today. So my first question, how many of you all actually use ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini on a daily basis? If you can raise your hands, please. Okay, that's almost the entire room. Everything you do on ChatGPT. Okay, that's very good to know. So how many of you are actually using it as part of your organization in terms of solving any problem within your organization or as part of a structured process where you have deployed an AI tool? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So maybe about 10 to 12 people. So that's not really surprising at this point in time because there's a lot of hype, and that's what we heard from the previous speaker as well. So there is an over-information, there's a lot of very fast development. So it's sometimes very, very challenging to wrap your head around it as to what's really going on. And I think that is not something which is very difficult to understand because whenever there's a new technology coming in, what we have seen is there is a hype cycle that tends to follow it. In the very recent past, you will remember that there was a lot of hype about 2 years back when we looked at blockchain or Web3 and NFTs. Suddenly, people were becoming millionaires and multimillionaires overnight. And where is all of that now? That's gone. But what has not really gone is the technology. That still continues to be there, and people who have understood that technology are building some great solutions and are actually becoming millionaires and multimillionaires, or at least taking their organizations to the next level. So that is the reason we are here today, to try and understand and decipher as to where AI is today, what is the hype, what is the real thing, and how can we get started this maybe on the Monday coming morning. So that will be my intent today, is to leave you here with some very simple thoughts and very simple steps which are actionable. And I will be talking about AI not from a technology standpoint, but from a standpoint of what are the use cases that are really getting deployed within real estate right now, and what are the opportunities. So I talked about the hype cycles. So let me take you back a couple of decades back, in fact, way back in early 90s, or maybe late 1990s. That's when the internet was coming into existence. So that was a time there was, again, a lot of hype. It was a consumer-facing technology. And this is something that was getting posted by top media across the world. So they were talking about that internet may just be a passing fad and internet is shutting down. Now today, after 25 years, this really sounds ridiculous because we cannot live without the internet even for a day or even for a second at that point in time. But how many people and how many organizations at that time were really understanding that, okay, let's not look at the hype and see what really is the opportunity that we have right now from an organization perspective. So that time, there was at least one person who looked at it, and that was Mr. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Walmart, the founder of Amazon. So a couple of years back, when he was sitting in a conference, somebody asked him as to why did you even start Amazon, and he started that in 1992. That was really early. And this is what he had to say. He said that he saw that the web was growing at 2,300%. He found it very, very exciting and interesting. He said it will be nice to open up an online store there. And rest is all history. Walmart today is, I think, in terms of market capitalization, at about number 5 today, at about 2.4 trillion. So that is what really happens if you are able to decipher the signal at the right time and take that action. It may seem to be a risk, but is it worth it? You will never know until you make a beginning. So what was also happening when Amazon started building early in 1992, there was a very large company where I worked earlier, and that was Walmart. So Walmart started business in 1962. So why am I telling you this story here? That will be just clear in a bit. when Amazon was starting, it was already 30 years since Walmart was into existence. They were almost, if not the number one, maybe the number two retailer in the US. So they understood their business, they understood retail, they understood the buyers. What they did not understand at that point in time was the power of this technology that was coming up. So while they started Walmart.com somewhere in 2000, that was still 6 years after Amazon had done that, they're still till today playing a catch-up game. So such mistakes can be very, very expensive. So later on, they went on to buy Jet.com in 2016 for a couple of billion, and then in India, they invested about $16 billion to buy Flipkart in 2018. And what did it give them? Just one country, across Amazon operating at a global level. And the catch-up game continues. So the point here is that we as senior leaders need to understand, okay, there is hype always, but then how can we distill it, understand what this technology is about, understand our own business, and see that what is it that I can start with. So just to summarize that, the lessons that we have here is, number one is to be disrupt or be disrupted. So what's really happening is that the past knowledge that we have many times, we tend to apply it to our future decisions. Now, the current knowledge is definitely important, but many a times it is not as effective because what it translates into is looking into the rear view mirror and driving front, specifically when it comes to technology, because technology is changing very rapidly and we have no experience of that. And internet still took about 20, 25 years to reach where it is today, but AI is growing at 100x speed. So that is something which you really need to understand. The other is that the consumer journeys, because of this, is evolving at a very, very fast pace. So what was true earlier in terms of consumer journeys and how we understood it, that has taken a very different trajectory. So be mindful of that, and early moves always matter. So it is important to create, and what it really helps you is to create distance from your competition, like the Walmart example that I just gave you. So what we are seeing in AI here today is that it is changing industries. When I say industries, it's each and every industry. So IMF just came out with this report where they talked about 40% of global employment getting exposed to artificial intelligence. So when they're saying exposed, I'm not referring to job losses per se, but then if you look at it from a different perspective, that if 40% of global jobs are going to get exposed to AI, what does it really mean? It really means that every industry, every domain, every sector, every department is exposed to AI or has an opportunity to use AI and build with it. So let's look at a couple of examples. If you look at healthcare, here's an example. It says about AI detects cancer at about 90% accuracy versus 78% for radiologists. So if there was a healthcare institution and it did not start to use AI, what does it do to patient trust or customer trust? It erodes over time. Would you go to a hospital or an institution which is not giving a right diagnosis? Will the doctors get associated with that institution or not? So it is, how do you build your trust? So if you're a radiologist, again, if you do not start to use AI as part of your work process, workflows or your work process, somebody else will be giving better diagnosis. And in the end, you will lose your trust and you will lose your employment. So it boils back to trust. Then if you look at AI tutors, they're delivering about almost 2x learning growth versus a human tutor. And why is that? That is because AI today, apart from the knowledge base that it has, it can personalize everything at scale. So if we have 200, 300 people here in the room, if everybody had to be taught a single topic, AI is able to personalize it as per your specific learning need. No human tutor can ever do that. It will learn from your behaviors and present you that knowledge so that you understand it in one go. So that really is a challenge for institutions and also for tutors. And if you draw a parallel from here in terms of your organizations, now replace the learners with your customers. Can you personalize your communication at scale to each and every customer because they are seeking different things at different points in time in their lives when they're buying a particular project? So can I put out a communication out in the market which is relevant for that person or that group of people? AI helps you enable that at scale. So there is a direct parallel from there that we can learn. McKinsey came out with a report where they work, of course, with a lot of clients. When they deployed AI at many of their retail clients, they saw an about 10% improvement in their net operating income. And I think that's really significant. So the point here is that no industry right now is immune from AI. Whether it is an opportunity or whether it is a threat is really up to us. It is an opportunity if you're able to embrace it, if you have to understand what it is and what it can do and deploy it in your businesses. It is a huge threat if you just let it go and let it pass as hype, or you're just too comfortable sitting in your own offices saying that, no, I know everything, I've done it this way, and this is the way it's going to be in the future. If that happens, the person who's going to be using AI is the one who's going to be replacing you. I mean, that is the hard truth right now. Okay, so let's look at the new digital world that is in front of us right now. So we have understood digital in a particular way, the way internet has evolved from the 1990s until now. It took about 20, 25 years. It still contributes to about 15% of global GDP, so that is still huge. So we cannot move away from or say that, okay, that hasn't made any impact. My slides seem to have stuck here. It's not moving. Yeah, okay. Okay, so what has happened is with this new technologies, the tech adoption curve that we are used to seeing over a slow period of time has really taken off. So to reach 1 million users, when ChatGPT was launched, I think in November of 2023, to reach 1 million users, it took just about 5 days. 5 days versus Netflix, which took about 3.5 years. That is the rate of adoption that we're seeing. It's mind-boggling. To reach 100 million users, internet took 7 years, whereas ChatGPT did it in just about 2 months. And if you look at ChatGPT again in terms of the kind of interactions that they're having or the engagement that customers or the users are having right now, it's about 800 million active users on a weekly basis. That's 80 crore people, or about 180 million people on a daily basis who are engaging with ChatGPT, and of course there will be a huge number for other tools as well, slightly lesser than this. But the point is then, who are these people? They're people like you and me. They are our customers, they are our suppliers, they are our partners. So what is it doing? It is changing how they behave. It is changing how they research, how they analyze, how they look at projects, how they purchase. So the consumer buying journeys, as we have known it in the past, they are changing, absolutely. And so the question goes back to us, how are we getting ready for this change? So if you look at the real estate, again, it really is at a cusp right now, as we have understood it from the past. So if we go back a couple of years, maybe about a few decades, how was real estate bought? And we all know that it was essentially blind faith. So there were small micro markets. The information sat with those people within those markets. There was no information going out or coming into those markets at a larger level. And whatever was the gospel, whatever was told to you, basically that formed the base on which people would take their decisions. But that really changed. Real estate anyway is the largest asset class in the world right now. And when a lot of consumers start coming in, the governments have to step in. They have to put in some regulations to protect the interest, not just of the users, but also of the developers or who are doing a good job out there. So that is when the regulations started to come in. And after that, it was about 2007 when internet had evolved and when Apple launched their first smartphones, is when our lives changed completely. So pre-2007, we were mostly using information from the internet, but after 2000 onwards, when we got a smartphone in our own hands, we all became content creators. So we are uploading images, we are uploading movies, we are uploading a whole lot of documents and other things, but in addition, what else are we doing? We are also reviewing. We are putting our comments out there. We are sharing our experiences out there. So there are platforms on which we review products, services, real estates, and everything. So what does it really do for us? It makes audit of our project public. It is no longer what you say, or it's no longer what your channel partner goes out and says. It is what the customer base or the consumer base is saying outside. And that is much more credible to people versus many a times the communication that is coming out from your organizations. And add to it the layer of AI, that gets multiplied by maybe 10x or maybe more than that. So today, if you go on to any of these AI tools and give it a prompt in terms of doing a research about a market or a micro market or particular projects, within minutes, it will give you an extremely detailed report. And not just in terms of what the numbers are at a macro or a microeconomic level or for that market, but also what the entire world is saying about that particular project. So it's important to build that trust at that level, so that what you're putting out in the market or what's going on in the market, you are aware of it and you are somewhere able to influence it in your favor. Right? So that is where we are today, and let's see what are the transformations which are happening right now. So I will talk about 3 areas, which is your marketing, operations, and strategy, where AI is getting deployed. And within these, I will talk about specific areas where you can think of within your own organizations. Now, some may be relevant for you, some may be not relevant for you at this point in time. But this is to help you know as to what's happening and how you can start to look at it and possibly get started. All right. So let's talk of marketing first. So AI-powered marketing helps you build credibility at scale. So let's look at customer conversations first. So customers today are always on, 24/7. They are engaging, interacting on their devices. They want information at that point in time. Can you, as an organization, provide that information at the point of demand, or at the point the thought occurs in their mind that, okay, I need to do something. Can I go and get the right kind of information, or can I actually go and talk to somebody? Office shuts at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's shut for the weekend. You are not available. Is there a solution? Yes, there is. So if you are able to deploy a voice-based solution, which is available 24/7, which is multilingual, it can talk to the customer in their language, and also give out information that is consistent. So when we have different people, it depends on the knowledge that they have. Sometimes they are not able to understand customer queries or whatever there is. There might be inconsistencies in communication. So what does that do? When you are not consistent in your communication that you put out, you break that trust of the customer. Because trust builds when there's consistency and you put out the same communication. So that becomes possible. Buyer sentiment radar. Again, we talked about all these buyers being out there on the social media. So there's continuous chatter. They're talking about projects. They're talking about so many things. You go for hotel booking. You go to Agoda. You go to so many other places. You see what people are saying. You go to Amazon. You read all the comments. But today, it is absolutely possible to put an ear to that communication and see what people are talking about my brand. Humanly, it is absolutely not possible. There are efficient AI tools which are available, which will do this sentiment analysis for you on a regular basis. And that will surface what are the negative sentiments that are coming up, and that is an opportunity for you to go and address it. That this is not the truth, and put out communication out there that addresses that negativity. Or if you see a positive communication, that's an opportunity for you to go and further amplify it because it builds trust in your project or trust in your organization. So that becomes possible, again, at scale. The other thing is, of course, your compliance guardrails. Now, marketing is very, very critical because you're putting out an official communication from your brand. So whatever you claim in that particular communication or the content that you put out there, of course, there is a certain regulation that you have to adhere to, even more so in real estate. So are you compliant on that or not? So because if you're not, it exposes you to legal challenges, to penalties, and so many other things. And above all of that, it breaks customer trust. Because if something happens, again, it goes out in the social media and people start talking about it or referencing it or sharing it. So if you can deploy AI tools which will flag this through, and it'll scan your communication, and so that anything which is not relevant does not go out into the market. Sorry, I'm having some issues with this clicker here. Okay, so personalization at scale is what I referenced earlier in my previous slide. So when you're talking to a customer or when you are a project, you have different customer sets. Somebody might be an investor, somebody might be a senior citizen, somebody might be a younger couple. They all have different requirements, but your project has a bunch of stuff which is relevant for each of these segments. But for example, if I'm an investor, you're telling me stuff which is not relevant to me, I will tune out. I'm not interested. But at the same time, for example, if I'm a senior citizen, I'm looking at a particular project, and the algorithm recognizes that this is possibly a senior citizen, can I put out the relevant information from your project in front of this person? So that really becomes possible when you are building your communication using such AI tools. Humanly, it is not possible because you'll give it to an agency, they will probably create 2 or 3 versions of that, not beyond that. So digital isn't really a tick box. It is something for you to build your credibility at scale. Yeah? So now let's look at operations. Again, very, very complex many a times. So I will talk about 4 things here as well. So number 1 is quality assurance. So if you have your inbound and outbound calls happening, how challenging is it to monitor those calls? What really is going on those calls? It is humanly not possible. At best, you will do a very small sample of 5, 10, 15% and say that, okay, this is what it is. Or things will only get surfaced when there are some escalations within the organization. But the moment you're deploying a QA-based AI tool, you are almost able to validate and do a quality assurance on all of those 100% calls. So what does it do for you? It again helps you build trust with the customer and gives you, and also at the same time surface any training needs which are there for employees or any knowledge base where they are not fully equipped. It surfaces that much earlier rather than later when some damage has been done in their conversations with the customers. Again, the compliance checks, because I'm sure this is one of the huge areas where you're submitting a lot of documents to different entities, different organizations. I don't know how many certifications you need or approvals, maybe 15, 20, or maybe more, and how many documents do you really need to submit. This is a very time-consuming process, absolutely, but then any errors there or any misses that happen can lead to project delays, it can lead to penalties, it can lead to so many other things. But what if this was to pass through an AI-based solution scanner, which is able to highlight and catch these errors even before the document submission happens? It can save you from a lot of trouble, a lot of exposure later, and actually have a real bottom line impact. The other aspect, of course, where AI is actually making a huge impact is in terms of your cost forecasting. So you can use AI tools to forecast costs for your projects, and it will be able to tell you ahead of time, or at least flag that, hey, these are the projects which are getting delayed, and therefore that has a lot of cascading impact in terms of other decisions that you take, maybe in terms of your raw materials and so many other things. And last, of course, and but not the least, scheduling again becomes a huge, huge challenge all the time, specifically if you have multiple projects and some projects are not on track. So with AI tools, you're able to detect early, and it can even recommend to you that here are the resources that you can actually shift from this project to another project till the time that project comes up. Or if there's any incoming raw material, for example, is it better and cost-effective still, including the logistics cost, to shift it from this site to another site and have the other one delivered to this site? So those are the small decisions which you can actually take and make a real bottom line impact with AI tools. So instead of managing actually chaos, which tends to happen or surround us most of the times, this is actually an opportunity to start delivering certainty with AI. Last and definitely not the least is AI is very good in terms of data analytics or analyzing data and at pattern recognition. It can do it at scale. So think of it like having a PhD level intelligence. Actually, we have a PhD level intelligence almost for free sitting in our iPhones or in our phones today. So what we have to do is to really understand how we can use it. That is what we need to understand and do. So the moment you look at strategy, I will not get into each one of these in detail, but then the moment you think of it as a very, very smart data analyst sitting with you. And it can help you with market intelligence, with price optimizations, and very importantly, again, your portfolio decisions. So if you're you have a portfolio of projects across different sectors, so maybe residential, commercial, you're building data centers, you're building warehousing. So there are a lot of macro level events that also impact what is the upcoming demand or what is the need for those kind of projects. So AI, if it is fed in the right kind of information, it will be able to make those predictions or even challenge you with the kind of questions which you go out which you go out and find answers for, will help you take the right decision. Right? So these are the three areas where AI is making an impact. All of this may not be relevant, but it is good to know, and then start looking within your own organizations as to where can I start. So I'll talk about two real deployments where AI has made a difference. So these are all real estate companies. One of them had challenges in scaling their lead engagement and improving qualification accuracy. I talked about the quality assurance part of it. So the result that they saw was about 34% engagement improvement. So that's a 3x improvement in terms of engagement, and about a 5.08 crore incremental revenue. So I think that's pretty significant. There's another example of another real estate company who had a low QA coverage. They deployed these programs, and they got a 99% QA coverage. So it's practically not possible through any manual intervention and others. So what did it result in was about 70% faster root cause analysis for any issues that happen, and also a 3x faster churn detection. So if you're able to detect earlier that this customer is going to churn, what kind of actions and impact that you take, that you retain and ultimately convert that customer. So these smaller deployments, and these are not very organization-wide, or they're not very cost expensive or very, very heavy in terms of the investments that are required, but they can have a real strong bottom line impact. So again, the question is, we have looked at a lot of things here in terms of what it can do, the hype and all of that, but the key point or the moot point is, where do you start? So let me leave you with a few very, very simple things to start with, and I hope it helps you start next Monday morning. So 3 decisions that every CEO must make. Number 1, many a times, because when we talk of technology, we think that we need to hire the best tech people and start building a technology bench. No, that is not what you need right now. What you really need to do is you need to have strategic clarity about AI as to what AI can do. What is AI? What AI can do. So what is AI? AI is mostly DIY, which is like do it yourself. So I would really, really encourage you, if you're using ChatGPT and there are multiple other tools, please use them by yourself so that you understand what capabilities are. And that's the beauty of AI, that it is all becoming low code and no code. You don't even need to be a coder to do anything. I'm not asking you to create your own applications, but at least understand its capabilities. That will really help in your conversations within your own team and also when you're talking to your vendor partners. So the number 1 decision that I would recommend is that you don't need to boil the ocean. You don't look at the entire organization and say that, okay, I'm going to change my entire organization. Stay away from that. That's not going to happen. Start where the pain is the highest. So number 1, if your leads are dying, you can think of deploying AI chatbots, voice bots, and ROI would be fairly immediate. This deployment can actually happen in a matter of weeks and not months and years. So think about that. The other is, if the compliances are a major pain, then think of automating your document scanning and error flagging using AI tools. That will make it much simpler. If your customer trust is low, think of implementing transparent project updates which go out to the customers on a regular basis on their own. You don't have to do anything. You will require some backend integration in terms of so that the information is fed in. But then the moment you do that, the customers are very happy if they're getting updates. Sometimes even if it is a delay, but if you tell them on time, they are happy to know it rather than later that, no, this got delayed 6 months back. So it's all about building trust through transparency. And this is where AI can help you in a major way. So what is the rule? How do you select these? Select for high impact and low risk. When you do that, you are fairly certain of a quick win. That is what you will get. And if that particular solution is successful for you, go and build it, otherwise kill it at that point in time and move on to what else is important. So again, don't look at the whole organization and try to change everything overnight. So here's my suggested action, that we are sitting on Saturday here today, so we have the next week coming up, so maybe by the next Friday, identify at least one area which is your pain point, either in terms of a revenue leak or in terms of a time drain. It takes up a lot of your time, or your revenue is leaking, and start thinking about that. Decision 2 is about you're actually sitting on gold mines. Now, this gold mine is your data. It could be your consumer data, your pricing data, your project data, how your customers have been shopping, about your financing data. Everything is an absolute gold mine. But the problem is many a times it's sitting in different places which you're not aware of, or they're sitting in silos, and it's all scattered. And data really is the fuel that runs AI. AI has been trained, it's very intelligent, but you have to give it the right data. Without that, it's not going to work. It will not deliver the results. So it needs clean customer data, your project performance data, market trends, whatever that you have, whichever area that you're trying to impact. Ensure that that data is available and it's clean and it's usable. So the trap here is that trying to buy an AI solution and thinking that just because I bought an AI solution, it will deliver me results. No, it will not deliver you results if your data is not okay. So it's like buying a Ferrari and not having the fuel for it. You can buy a Ferrari, you can keep it in the garage. You're not going anywhere in that. So the action here is to, this Monday again, so on the Friday we have to decide something else, but by Monday at least you can start to look at as to what data do you have, where is it sitting, and is it usable. Very simple things to start on Monday. Once you have identified that, it might still take you weeks depending on how scattered the data is, but at least start on that journey. Number three, again, a very, very important and a critical decision is whether to build or to buy or to partner. So the recommendation here is to not build. You are strong in certain areas. Tech is not your strong point. Hiring tech talent, again, is a challenge. Sometimes you're not even equipped to identify the right kind of challenge. So it'll just be a distraction from your business. So the suggestion here is to go out and partner, find the right kind of an advisor, find the right kind of a company that has the tech already. All you need to do is plug in with them and start working and do a trial. That also lowers your own failure cost. Cost in terms of both time as well as in terms of money. So lower that cost of failure. Now budget, this is a very approximate number that I've put in because sometimes I get asked that question. So it really depends, but nonetheless, I have just to give you an broad indication, I put a number that can be anywhere 2 to 10% of your marketing budget. So the framework here is once you've made that decision to partner, how do you start? You think about one pilot with a vendor for about 3 to 6 months. That's a long enough time or a good enough time to give you some sort of an indication as to whether this is working or it's not working, and I need to kill it here right now and look at something else. So 3 to 6 months is a good enough time frame. I'm sorry? Okay. All right. The other thing is on the framework, you can measure the ROI, so you need to give your clear ROIs, define very clear ROIs with your vendor partner, and measure them very, very clearly in terms of whether it's about lead conversion, time saved, or cost that are getting reduced, and then scale it, of course, whatever works and kill whatever doesn't. So those are the 3 decisions that I would encourage you to take. And then, of course, important caveats here, or some things to be mindful of. Watch out for vendors promising AI magic overnight. That doesn't happen, really. So whoever is trying to tell you that is probably not the right vendor partner. So AI magic does not happen. It is a process that you have to go through. It will take time. And start small. Solutions that do not integrate with your existing systems and CRM. Some minor tweaking is required, that's fine. But if it does not integrate with your existing systems and processes, it will be a challenge. So be mindful of that. Now, AI also calls for redesigning your systems and processes. It will have to be done, but then understand how complex it is going to be, because processes don't operate in silos. They impact a lot of other divisions and departments. And then again, any long-term contracts that lock you in before proving value, for sure, just stay away from that. That's not required. All right, so in summary, I'll leave you with three takeaways here. Number one, that you will not be replaced by AI per se. You will be replaced with somebody who's using AI. That's for sure. That's going to happen. It's not going to happen after 20 years. It's going to happen in a matter of years. So please, we take action on that right now. Your competitive moat, what really is your competitive moat is your own knowledge, your data, multiplied by AI. So that really becomes to build your moat from now. And then start small, learn fast, and perfection is definitely the enemy of progress. It will not be perfect, but be mindful of that and build from there. And finally, the 3 decisions to make that I talked about. Pick one target, gather your data, and decide whether you want to build, you want to buy, or you want to partner. So Mondays, when you start your audit journey, by Friday, at least try and identify one area where there is either a revenue leak or there's a time drain where you can help. And next week, try to also create a cross-functional team with you as the leader. So AI is not an IT project. Don't treat it as an IT project that an IT person is going to lead it. That's not going to work. It is part of your business strategy. It is a strategic decision. It impacts each and every aspect of your business, each and every division and department of your business. So you have to lead this because you bring in that vision from a senior level. It is not an IT project at all. That's it. Thank you. That's for my presentation. Open for any questions.
Let's take a check in the room in case there are questions.
Yeah.
Can we have a mic there? Your name and your question in brief.
Good morning. This is Subhash Chandra Bose, Vice President, CRED IAP. How practical is digital adoption for a small and middle-sized developers compared to corporates?
Okay, you're asking about how relevant it is for smaller organizations at a regional level?
Yeah.
Okay. It's absolutely relevant, is what I would say. I talked about these small projects, even in terms of deploying a QA assurance bot or a customer calling bot. It does not really cost the moon. So any organization of any size today can start tomorrow. It totally depends on first internally identifying as to what your challenges are and starting to find the right kind of a partner. It is not expensive at all. AI has been democratized completely.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure, please go ahead.
One question per person till we have. Thank
So
you.
Akash, this is Mahavir Mehta here.
Yes, sir. I'll try and repeat the question. I can hear it. Yeah.
Now the point is that most of the time our leads are lost and the cost of the lead is much more. So what type of AI we employ for the marketing? Can you give some tools names or practical names, then how do we start with?
Okay. So the question, I'm gone now. Okay. So the question is there are a lot of leads that get generated, but they get lost. So how can AI help here? And if I can give specific names or specific tools. Yeah. All right. So that is that's a great question, and that is what I was referring to in one of my slides there earlier. That there is a huge inflow of leads, but they are getting lost. They can get lost because of quality assurance, because when they are calling in, they are not getting the right kind of a response. And that is where, if you look at deploying an AI tool there, I'm sorry, I'll not be able to take the names right now, but then offline I can definitely talk about it. So if you deploy that specific tool, it all gets channeled through this particular solution, which will be able to not only do a quality assurance and all of those tools so that your conversions later are higher, and any challenges of drops in terms of either your associate not using the right kind of language or your associate not being competent in terms of having entire knowledge about the product will get hired immediately on the same day, so that those interventions can be made as of tomorrow or not after 3 weeks, when by the time maybe hundreds of customers have already left. So if you put on those AI tools today, it can help you deliver that ROI maybe in a matter of months, maybe 2 to 3 months, as small as that.
Time for one last question. I see a hand up there.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
This is Dennis from Kredai, Tamil Nadu. Beautiful presentation. And the challenge that me as an individual I face while I interact with AI and the fraternity here is data. So we do not have a lot of data that I can feed into my AI and make it understand how this entire thing works. For example, you were speaking about if you have a problem with RERA regulations and you automate the entire documentation process, there's a lot of data that needs to be given inside the AI, and also multiple levels of integrations with multiple stakeholders. There's a government involved, there's a licensing agent involved, there's a developer involved. So what I'm trying to understand here is, how are you tackling that gap in data that India as a market has? Because, for example...
I think that question is taken.
One last input
Yeah.
I would like to ask. With respect to procurement, we do not have any market data with respect to benchmarking. So there's a lot of precision issues that are coming. How would you like to look into that, sir? That's my question.
So
Thank you.
let me try and answer the compliances bit first. I think that is a bigger pain point here right now. So number one, of course, when you're looking at these AI tools, okay, it requires some information against which it has to compare, just like a human would. It's just that it does it at scale, and that at pattern recognition, it is way higher, or understanding those needs, it is multiple times than what a human can. So definitely in terms of what the requirements are, what the needs are, or what the forms that need to be filled, all of that becomes a part of the training for that particular AI. Now, what comes in after this is you as an organization, as a company. Because what you have to do is fill in all of these forms or create these reports, and these need to be vetted against this data or vetted against these requirement documents, right? So this is where AI fills in that gap. So here there's no additional data that is required, because these forms or these submissions is what you are creating as an entity or an organization. What it definitely needs is what to compare against, right? So, and in terms of regular updates or amendments that also keep coming out, that have to be fed in at a regular basis, or if there is a solution provider who's already doing that and monitoring that as to what's happening here, maybe at the state level, what is getting reduced, what amendments are getting released right now, I need to fit into my pool of the data. So then this problem is absolutely sorted. So that is not a problem. On your procurement side, of course, it needs data. Now, if the data does not exist, we cannot expect a great outcome out of that. But I'm sure in terms of pricing for your cement and other material, and even projections out there, from the perspective of people who actually invest in these markets, I'm sure that data is already existing out there. So the point is, how do I plug in, maybe from a different industry, but it's relevant for me? And then make that as a decision point and use that to make my own projections. Your own data, for sure, you have. Your own data in terms of project management is definitely there in terms of what your requirements are going to be in the next 1, 2, 3, 6 months, or even for a year. What projects are coming up? What are the projects that are getting delayed? So that information, I'm sure, is available.
I guess we'll have to leave it at that.
No, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank
I
you
hope that
so
answers.
much. I know the quality of questions have been almost, show what quality of presentation there was. Maybe have a round of applause for Akash Agarwal. Certainly, adopting AI is not an IT project or a tick box. May I invite Bhaskar Nagendra Pavaru to felicitate our speaker who's given in really the nuts and bolts of how you can incorporate and integrate data and technology into your core business.
I
It's
hope you
not
liked it, sir.
something which is a one-off. Thank you so much, Akash, for spelling it out in such detail.
Done, sir. I don't know, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well, that is certainly a Sanmana from SouthCon 2026 for coming and
Thank you so much.
giving the audience some very, very doable tasks in an extremely relatable manner. Thank you once again to our
Thank you
speaker.
for having